We're live from New Delhi. You're watching TT India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India slams Pakistan at UN, terms it a rogue state, fueling global terrorism and destabilizing the region. UN launches Victims of Terrorism Association Network to support victims and survivors of terrorism. Counting of votes begin in the snap election that chooses a leader to confront Trump's trade war and annexation threat. Liberal Mark Carney faces challenge from Conservative Pierre Poilievre. Spain and Portugal managed to restore most of power supply after a massive blackout hit the region. No firm cause yet ascertained of the blackout, which affected millions. 14-year-old India's teenage sensation Vaibhav Suryavanshi becomes the youngest centurion in T20 cricket, shatters multiple records in an Indian Premier League game in his 35-ball ton. On to the top story this hour. Polls in Atlantic Canada's 4 provinces have closed, while people in Ontario and Quebec, 4 western provinces and 3 territories are still voting. In early counting, the Liberals were leading in 21 of Atlantic Canada's 32 districts, which are also called seats, followed by the Conservatives with 11. The Liberals held 23 seats before the election. The election comes just 6 weeks after Mark Carney was sworn in as Prime Minister, replacing his party colleague Justin Trudeau. The two clear front-runners are the Liberal Party, led by Carney, which has been in power for a decade, and the Conservative Party, led by Pierre Poilievre. Trump re-emerged as a campaign factor last week, declaring that he might raise a 25% tariff on Canadian-made cars because the US does not want them. He said earlier he might use economic force to make Canada the 51st state. And Spain has declared a state of emergency after a massive power cut hit large parts of the country and Portugal, causing widespread disruption. Spain's Interior Ministry deployed 30,000 police across the country to keep order as governments from the two countries convened emergency cabinet meetings. Authorities were yet to establish what had caused the blackout and were not ruling out any hypothesis after the power outage. Power started returning to parts of the Libyan Peninsula late on Monday after a huge outage brought parts of Spain and Portugal to a standstill, grounding planes, halting public transport and forcing some hospitals to suspend routine operations. In an evening address, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said Spain's grid operator had restored electricity supplies to about half of the country and insisted there was no indication of a cyber attack.
What has caused this sudden disappearance of supply? This is something that specialists have not yet been able to determine, but they will. And the relevant state institutions and all private operators are working together to understand what has happened. All potential causes are being analyzed. I insist again, without ruling any hypothesis, any possibility.
And Russian President Vladimir Putin on Monday announced a 3-day truce starting from midnight, May 8th. The Kremlin said that Putin had ordered a full cessation of hostilities to mark the 80th anniversary of Russia's Victory Day, which falls on May 9th. Russia called on Ukraine to join the truce, the Kremlin said, adding that Russian troops would give an adequate and effective response if Ukraine violates the ceasefire. Also, the Kremlin noted that Russia once again declares its readiness for peace talks without preconditions to address the root causes of the Ukraine crisis and to have constructive interactions with international partners. The White House said U.S. President Donald Trump, who has been attempting to broker a truce between the two sides, wants to see a permanent ceasefire. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Monday that the world did not want to wait until May 8th for Putin's announcement ceasefire in the more than 3-year-old conflict, only to be in effect for a few days.
The world believes that there is no reason to wait until May 8th. The fire must be stopped not just for a few days, only to resume killing afterward. An immediate, complete, and unconditional ceasefire for at least 30 days to ensure it is guaranteed and reliable is what can provide the foundation for real diplomacy.
Well, the head of Israel's domestic intelligence service, Ronen Bar, has announced his resignation and will step down on June 15th. This came 6 weeks after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tried to oust the security chief. The Shin Bet, which handles counter-terrorism investigations, has been at the center of a growing political battle, pitting Netanyahu's coalition government against an array of critics, ranging from members of the security establishment to families of hostages in Gaza. Netanyahu said on March 16 that he had long ago lost confidence in Bar and that trust in the head of the domestic security service, whose roles include counterterrorism and security for government officials, was especially crucial at a time of conflict. The Supreme Court later temporarily froze the government's bid to sack Bar. Meanwhile, released Israeli hostages joined hostages' families on Monday, asking U.S. President Donald Trump to help all parties return to the negotiation table and bringing the hostages home. The plea came on the 100th day of Trump's presidency.
Weeks after my release, I met President Trump in person, and I saw his deep commitment to bringing all remaining hostages home. As his administration approaches its 100th day, I urge the President to continue his commitment, apply pressure, restart negotiations immediately, and secure a deal now, before it's too late. The remaining 59 hostages deserve the same chance I had, a chance to heal, to reconnect, to live. And for those who were murdered, their families cannot begin to heal without the dignity of a proper burial. For Israel to truly celebrate its independence, every one of its citizens must be free.
I am the grandmother of Idan Alexander. He is an American citizen who came to Israel to be a soldier. President Trump and Mr. Witkoff, do you remember what you said to us? Bring Idan home, please. Please bring Idan home and all the hostages in Gaza.
Well, the technical team from the International Atomic Energy Agency arrived in Iran on Monday to hold technical talks, including on safeguards. It follows IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi's visit to Tehran earlier this month and nuclear talks in Oman last week. The current flurry of diplomatic meetings stem from the landmark 2015 nuclear deal between Iran and major powers that placed tough restrictions on Iran's nuclear activities that increased its breakout time to at least a year. After President Donald Trump pulled the United States out of the deal in 2018, it then unraveled and Iran pushed far beyond its limits. Now Trump wants to negotiate new nuclear restrictions in talks that began last weekend. Speaking at the United Nations on Monday evening, Grossi expressed hope that the discussions will allow the agency to monitor the country's nuclear program and ultimately prevent further conflict in the region. He called it a moment of enormous importance.
As you know, this is a moment of enormous importance. This is a moment where a number of processes are ongoing. In particular, there is a very important effort between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran. I'm in constant contact with Ambassador Witkoff, of course, at the same time consulting with Foreign Minister Arakci in order to provide the technical support that and capabilities and monitoring potential that the IAEA should be able to exercise.
Well, the United Nations expressed deep alarm on Monday at reports that U.S. strikes on Yemen killed scores of people at a migrant detention center in a stronghold of the Houthi rebels. The U.S. military has hammered the Iran-backed Houthis with near-daily strikes since March 15th in an operation called Rough Rider that seeks to end their attacks on vessels in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. The U.S. defense official said that the military was aware of the claims of civilian casualties related to the U.S. strikes in Yemen and are conducting battle damage assessment and inquiry. According to the preliminary information, 68 migrants had been killed and another 48 injured in the overnight strikes. UN spokesman Stephen Dujarric urged all parties to protect the civilians.
Our colleagues at the International Organization for Migration has not been operating at this particular facility. They remain committed to closely monitoring the situation, stand ready to afford support if needed. Furthermore, our humanitarian colleagues say that there are reports that hospitals in the area are being overwhelmed due to their limited capacity. 2 nearby hospitals have already received more than 50 injured people, many of them critically wounded. These strikes pose a growing risk to the civilian population in Yemen. We continue to call on parties to uphold their obligations under international humanitarian law, including the protection of civilians.
Well, a lawyer for 10 Venezuelan men sent by the U.S. government to a prison in El Salvador was denied her access to meet with her clients. More than 250 Venezuelans were deported from the United States to a maximum security Salvadoran prison beginning of March under an agreement through which the United States is paying El Salvador to hold the prisoners. Kerry Kennedy, a human rights activist, said she visited El Salvador to speak with the defendants, document the human rights situation and learn about the condition of Kilmer Abrego Garcia, a Salvadoran man the U.S. government said was mistakenly deported, while Bukele has said he would not release him in El Salvador nor smuggle him back into the country. And U.S. President Donald Trump's administration on Monday said it was probing whether Harvard University and the Harvard Law Review violated civil rights laws when the journal's editors fast-tracked consideration of an article written by a member of a racial minority. News of the new probe came hours after a federal judge agreed to expedite Harvard University's lawsuit seeking to block the Trump administration from freezing $2.2 billion in federal grant funding that the Ivy League school has warned will threaten vital medical and scientific research. The Trump administration in late March announced it was launching a review of about $9 billion in grants and contacts with Harvard to protect students from anti-Semitic discrimination. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Indian diaspora in Paris organized a peace march in solidarity with victims of Pahalgam terror attack. Piyush Goyal in London to boost India-UK trade ties, meets key business leaders and pushes FTA talks. And stage set for Waves 2025 in Mumbai. Amitabh Bachchan shares his excitement ahead of the mega entertainment summit. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lupakshi Kuran. And moving on, Pakistan continues to violate ceasefire across the line of control. During the night of 28-29 April, the Pakistani army resorted to unprovoked small arms firing across the line of control in areas opposite Kupwara and Baramulla districts, as well as the Akhnur sector. The Indian army responded in a measured and effective manner to the provocation. And India launched a scathing critique of Pakistan at the launch of the Victims of Terrorism Association Network in the United Nations. Beginning the statement by mentioning Pahalgam terror attack, India's Deputy Envoy to UN, Yojana Patel, reaffirmed that India has been a victim of cross-border terrorism. Taking a dig on Pakistan's Defence Minister's remarks, she said that Pakistan is a rogue state and Pakistan Minister's confessions on his country's support to terror surprises no one.
The whole world has heard Pakistan's Defence Minister Khwaja Asif admitting and confessing Pakistan's history of supporting, training and funding terrorist organizations in a recent television interview. This open confession surprises no one and exposes Pakistan as a rogue state fueling global terrorism and destabilizing the region. The world can no longer turn a blind eye. I have nothing further to add.
Well, the Indian diaspora in France has organized a peace march in solidarity with the victims of the Pahalgam terror attack. In front of the Eiffel Tower, Indians expressed their anger against terrorism. They also showed their faith in the government and appreciated its efforts.
26 innocent tourists lost their lives in Pahalgam terror attack. India is shaken again. Indians are in deep grief again. Whole world is condemning this coward attack. And Indians from all over the world are standing firmly with the victims and with nation. I'm here in Paris, right in front of the Eiffel Tower, where Indian diaspora has organized peace march in support of the victim and against terrorism.
भारत माता की एक बात ख्याल रहे कि यहाँ पे जो भारत हमारा है ना उसको प्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं तो भारत हम
No one here is from any particular state or any particular organization. Everyone gathers here is just as an Indian. We can see children, professional, youngsters and senior citizens as well. They are carrying messages that we are standing firmly against terrorism. They are holding Indian flag. They are showing their support to India and victims' family.
Like whenever I used to see that lady like just sitting down and husband lying down, it was very terrific and very emotional. And we are just here to support, and that's it, nothing.
Innocent bloodshed is not at all acceptable and not justified in any philosophy, in any terminology, for any cause in the world, in this civilized society.
My condolences to all the families who are involved with this, and I really hope this ends and India is against terrorism, and it means unity in diversity. Thank you.
So terrorism is a big no-no. I think we are fully confident with the competent authorities of India. We stand together with everybody, and we hope that there is some solution to this sooner than later.
Like Paris, Indians from every corner of the world showing and saying, no matter how far we are from our land, we still can feel the pain of victims, their family and friends. And they are saying, they are showing, we are here standing firmly for peace, for justice and for the nation. Rohini Gosavi in Paris for DD India.
And in the aftermath of the recent Pahalgam terrorist attack, India has taken strong measures against Pakistan, including the revocation of 14 categories of visa previously granted to Pakistani nationals. Pakistani visitors to India admitted on medical visa must exit by today, that is April 29th. The visa revocations took place in a staggered manner, with SAARC visas expired on April 26th, medical visas expiring on April 29th, and all other visas expired on April 27th. Diplomatic and official visas will, however, remain valid, with any deadline to exit India to be decided by the Ministry of External Affairs. Long-term visas issued to Pakistani citizens will also remain valid. There shall also be no restriction on the issue of new diplomatic and official visas or long-term visas. An Indian Minister of Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal is in London for 2 days of discussions aimed at strengthening bilateral trade and investment relations. In his latest series of engagements there, the minister met chairperson of Revolut, Martin Gilbert. They exchanged views on the immense opportunities in India's fintech ecosystem and the importance of partnerships with global players to drive innovation and growth. Well, Piyush Goyal also met CEO of De Beers Group AI Cook and his team to explore global trends in the gems and jewelry sector. They discussed India's opportunities, sustainable practices and growth prospects for the diamond industry. Later, the Commerce Minister interacted with members of the Indian business delegation over dinner to discuss the robust growth of India's industry and avenues for greater collaboration with the UK for mutual prosperity. Beginning his London visit, Goyal held a productive meeting with his UK counterpart Jonathan Reynolds to advance free trade agreement negotiations and to reinforce commitment to deepen India-UK economic ties. And the stage is all set for the World Audio-Visual Entertainment Summit or WAVES 2025, which will take place from May 1st to 4th in Mumbai. Let's listen in what legendary actor Amitabh Bachchan has to say about this mega event.
नमस्कार। आज भी लोग मुझसे पूछते हैं कि सिनेमा का असली मकसद क्या है। मैं कहता हूं कि सिनेमा सिर्फ एक कहानी नहीं, एक एहसास है जो दिल तक जाए, जो यादों में रहे, जो दुनिया को जोड़ दे। वर्ल्ड ऑडियो विजुअल एंड एंटरटेनमेंट समिट वेव्स इज द नेक्स्ट चैप्टर ऑफ दैट जर्नी, जहां सिर्फ एंटरटेनमेंट ही नहीं, एक नया युग लिखा जाएगा। तो क्या आप इस कहानी का हिस्सा बनने के लिए तैयार हैं?
And on to some sports news now. 14-year-old India's teenage sensation Suryavanshi on Monday rewrote history books as his sensational 35-ball 100 shattered multiple records. Rajasthan Royals batter became the youngest centurion in men's T20 cricket ever at just 14 years and 232 days. He became second fastest player to an IPL century, sitting just behind Chris Gayle in the list of fastest IPL centuries. Suryavanshi also became the fastest Indian breaking Yusuf Pathan's 37-ball record set in 2010. His 101-run knock, which included 8 fours and 11 sixes, helped Rajasthan defeat Gujarat Titans by 8 wickets. Chasing a daunting target of 210, Suryavanshi and Yashasvi Jaiswal put on a whirlwind 166-run opening stand in just 11.5 overs, dismantling a Titans attack boasting Mohammad Siraj, Ishant Sharma, Prasidh Krishna, Rashid Khan and Sai Kishore. And former Indian hockey team goalkeeper P.R. Srijesh and cricketer Ravichandran Ashwin were among 5 eminent sportspersons honoured with the Padma Awards 2025. P.R. Srijesh led India to historic Olympic bronze medal at Tokyo 2020 and Paris 2024. He was conferred with the Padma Bhushan. He became only the second hockey player after the legendary Major Dhyan Chand to receive this prestigious award. Veteran spinner Ravichandran Ashwin, who retired last year as India's second highest wicket taker in Test cricket with 537 wickets, was awarded the Padma Shri for his remarkable contribution to Indian cricket. Indian football icon I.M. Vijayan, Paralympic gold medalist actor Harvinder Singh and para-athletics coach Satyapal Singh also received the Padma Shri for their outstanding achievements. And flawless Indian team will look to maintain momentum when they take on South Africa in the second match of the Women Tie Series on Tuesday. Women in Blue extended their winning streak in ODIs to 7 matches with a comprehensive 9-wicket win over host Sri Lanka in the tournament opener. India had beaten South Africa 3-0 the last time the two teams met in a 50-over series. The Indian players have also enjoyed game time in the World's Premier League, which added to the squad's match readiness. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Well, let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world in the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. Well, we'll be back with more news as it breaks over on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.